been a wild week in the markets and economy, and Trump's tariffs continue to stoke chaos and uncertainty, retaliation from China, recession fears. We're up over 100% tariffs coming back from China. It's been quite the week.
A roller coaster week on Wall Street.
So President Trump's trade war is sending markets on a wild ride this week.
The United States post-World War II was a global stabilizer. We are the global destabilizer.
We're living in crazy town right now, and the markets are swinging wildly.
There will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs.
Let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? It is the White House who capitulated.
We don't know what comes after the 90 days. Trump doesn't know what comes after the 90 days. Businesses certainly don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. You know what? That's what I've heard a lot last week. I don't know.
What a wild week it has been.
A wild week, a lot of I don't knows, because if the people in charge don't know, then very few other people can know anything. The top 500 companies down over 10% since Trump came into office. The Dow, 9%. And yet, many of Trump's enablers are trying to sell failure as a win. Headlines on Fox, Trump outsmarts the PhDs, victory. He's thinking 3 steps ahead. Why 3? Call it 6. Just wake us when something actually works. Inside the White House, we still have evidence and information. In fact, there's a lot of hardworking journalists at all kinds of outlets, from the Times to the Post to this Yahoo story, about the Kremlin-esque praise of Trump in a meeting that might have as well been held in Moscow.
What you're doing now, I think, is a great service to our country, but ultimately to the world. And I want to congratulate you and your team that's working on that, because that has extraordinary geopolitical implications.
Mr. President, on behalf of America's manufacturers, I want to thank you for standing up to the Chinese Communist Party and fighting for our main streets, for our workers.
What you have assembled in your vision is a turning point and an inflection point in American history. And so just being a part of that is the greatest honor. So thank you for that.
It is really striking, and the point is not whether this feels embarrassing or obviously false or the tone. The point is this is part of the feedback loop which is affecting Americans because of broken and incompetent policy in the United States government, in the White House. You can go back to Scarface, or as the great Biggie Smalls put it in the 10 Crack Commandments, never get high on your own supply. And the president is basically veering and zigzagging back and forth to meetings like that where he thinks, hey, we got this under control, and then much more painful measures like the stock and bond markets telling him, no, everyone is panicked for a horribly mistaken policy. Here's some reporting that Trump privately acknowledged his trade policy could trigger a recession, but he wanted to avoid a depression. So with that in mind, you have this extreme praise also coming from lawmakers who are supposed to know better.
We've never had a genius in terms of an entrepreneur in office before like this.
In terms of what the president is doing, this is going to be the biggest deal any president has ever closed since the Louisiana Purchase under Thomas Jefferson.
To quote Donald Trump himself, don't believe what your eyes are telling you. Don't believe what they're saying. In this case, because they are spinning to him, even as the markets and a lot of private reporting indicates the opposite about this flailing trade war.
Good to be with you, Ari. I don't think that that room was a place where they were interested in facts. I think they were more interested in spin. And you saw that in the way that they were praising him, the way that they're taking a week where a lot of people were feeling a lot of uncertainty and pain and instability, and instead using that as an opportunity to tell the sitting president that he's doing a great job, that this will produce perhaps short-term pain, that everyone who is feeling some uncertainty about this just, doesn't understand that he has a bigger, grander, bolder plan that it's all going to work out in the end. They told him what he wanted to hear.
Yeah, here's what we saw on Fox. Take a look.
Those 401k people who were depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. Look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period.
Michelle, it's rare that you have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we need to concede, though, that some of that rhetoric is actually effective. She was talking there about victory gardens and people doing things to make sacrifices during World War II. And when Trump repeatedly talks about America getting ripped off, I spent the week talking to Trump supporters in places like Colorado and Wisconsin, and a lot of them actually buy into that sort of patriotism. They believe in the idea that manufacturing should come back to the United States. Unfortunately, even though that message lands well with voters, it's going to be very difficult to rev that engine back up in this America. It's almost like he's fighting a trade war with, the idea of this building some sort of manufacturing might based on an idea that's come and gone. It's going to be very difficult to bring manufacturing back to the United States for all kinds of reasons. And even if we were to do this, the average factory takes 2 to 3 years to build and then another 2 to 3 years to become efficient.